We're about to start week 3 of VCT Americas Stage 1, so it's time to talk about how are each of these 12 teams feeling heading into this very crucial weekend. We did one of these panic rankings before the stage started, now we're doing it in about the mid-range of Stage 1 round robin. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So this was the board we have today. In case you didn't see the other ones, at the very top we have Chad, so these are teams that are feeling very good right now. Hopium is feeling quite hopeful for your team, but not at that same Chad level. There's still a little bit of caution there. Copium is much more cautious, so teams that maybe aren't feeling the best right now but still have some hope for success. Panic is pretty self-explanatory. It's Panic, and then at the very bottom we have Withered, which is just you're basically done. So we will be doing this in order of Brazilian teams, Latin American teams, and then of course the North American teams. Which means we're starting with Furia, and it's basically down in the depths for this team. A team that looked promising in the offseason, headed into the VCT Americas 2025 season, hoping for some more success than they did in 2024, where they had an abysmal season. But so far, it's looking like it's going the exact same way. This team only has one win under their belt in 2025, and that win was with that sub-roster that played against 2G at the beginning of kickoff because their players were missing visas. So right now, it's looking like that sub-roster was much better than the roster that they have now, and when you look at the roster on paper, that definitely should not be the case. The only real silver lining that I can see with this team is that Prize, their new addition to replace MW Zera, has been looking decent, but overall this team is just struggling left and right. They'll have matches where they start really well, they look like they're maybe going to get an upset like they did against Energy when they won the first map, or against G2 when they won the first 8 rounds in a row, and then they just tend to fall apart. So what that tells me is that this team does have a decent amount of talent on them, they just don't have the pieces to put it all together. If they want to have a decent end to stage 1, they're going to have to put together some wins coming up. There are some winnable matches for them going forward. They definitely can beat Leviathan, but we will see what happens there. Moving on, we have Loud, and there's an argument to put them in the very bottom, but I'm going to put them in Panic. So Loud had a pretty promising kickoff where they won their first 2 matches. They had a really close match against Sentinels, and then they lose that one and then lose to Crew. So they lost to one team that went to Bangkok, and then lost to another team that looked like they could have gone to Bangkok. And then they start their stage 1 with a rematch against Crew, and they lose that one after having one map where they dominated Crew. And then they play against 2G, arguably the easiest opponent in the entire league, and they lose it without even winning a map. Just a terrible, terrible game to lose. That was the freest win they would have had. 2G is a team that before that match was in complete disarray, and as soon as 2G got some momentum, they did not let it go, and Loud just couldn't find an answer. So a team that looked really promising, looked really strong at kickoff despite going out when they did. Now they're looking more like the team that a lot of people had low expectations for heading into the season. The main silver lining is that Digizen is continuing his strong play, a player that has been inconsistent in the past. He has looked quite good in stage 1, but a lot of players are struggling on this team, and their schedule does not get easier. They're playing 100 Thieves next, then Sentinels, then Evil Geniuses. So I can see a world where they only get one win in the entire stage. Evil Geniuses would probably be that one. We'll see if they can recover, but I think right now it's panic land for this team. Moving on, we have MIBR, and I think it's safe to put them in Hopium, a team that is 1-1 in the stage, winning against Leviathan and then losing against G2, but that G2 match was quite close, so they did a really good job against the best team in the entire region, so there is a lot of good to take from that match. Verno has been looking quite good, so there is a lot of good things to take from that match, especially Verno, their new addition, who seems to be fitting in like a glove. I've said in previous videos that I want to see a bit more consistency from Ospos right now. He hasn't been the dominant player that we know he can, but as soon as he starts to hit that stride, this team might be unstoppable. Very excited to see where this team can go. Don't want to put them in Chad yet because it is a bit too early for me to say that, but they're looking really good. They look like the best Brazilian team in the league, so that's all you can really ask for right now. And they have some winnable matches coming up, so their strength of schedule is quite good when you compare it to some of the teams that they would be competing for those playoff spots with. Moving on, we have 2G. Now, if they lost that game against Loud, then they definitely would have been in the Withered section, but because they won that one, they're still very much in contention for a playoff spot, and they have 1 win, 1 loss. They're tied with a lot of teams. So I think that at least puts them up to Copium, because I feel like Panic is also not right. I feel like 2G and their fans are just like, we're just here for the ride, let's just see how far they can take it. And I think that's the right mindset to have. Obviously, this roster is completely changed from the roster that won Ascension. Whether that be an org's decision or not, there have been a lot of changes. So if this team can start to build up some momentum with their new players, Askia looked quite good. Their new player in PXS to replace Zap, Very impressive work from him just jumping in when he did. And Gobert looks like a very strong player, so if this team can start to string together some wins, then they might actually end up being in a pretty good position here. I would say it is still quite unlikely. I'm not sure if they get another win during the rest of the stage. They're up against Crew next, a team that is looking very strong right now, then 100 Thieves, and then Sentinels. So maybe that one against Loud is the only win that they end up getting, but hey, at least it was a good win. We will see how this team develops over time. I'm really excited to see how it turns out, because right now they still look like a pretty weak team, but they just proved everybody wrong. Moving on, we have Leviathan, and it's kind of looking like Withered here, but I also feel like Withered is just no hope at all, so I feel like Panic should maybe be where we put him. It's very close to the very bottom for Leviathan. They made a roster change before stage 1, and it doesn't seem to have worked out. Rossi's definitely a good player, but is he IGLing? Is Kane IGLing? Is a different player IGLing? There seems to be a thing where Rossi came in to be the new IGL in place of Kane, and then you put Kane on Duelist, even though that is a weird role to put as your IGL. But then Rossi tweeted that he didn't IGL during their last game, and the team's just losing. They got destroyed by C9, they got dominated by MIBR, and their roles just are in complete disarray. Demon won on Smokes, he's been okay. Kane on Duelist has not been good. I don't think the coaching staff is putting their players in a position to succeed. It's making the whole team look very mediocre. Calm hasn't been good either. Tex had a really bad game against C9. It's just all bad when it comes to Leviathan, a roster that on paper should be better than this. It just doesn't seem like the right mix of players. I think dropping a tank is looking like a mistake at this point. So we'll see if they can recover from here on out, but I'm not putting any money on that. Moving on, we have Crew, who definitely deserve to be in the Hopium section. Again, I'm not going to put them in Chad because I feel like we've seen Crew dominate before and be really good, but then fall short. So I do think that their fans should be a bit conscious of that, but overall, it's all happy for this team. Only one bad map really during stage 1 in the 2 matches that they've played so far. They lost that one against Loud, but then they ended up winning that whole match, so it doesn't even matter, and then they ended up dominating Sentinels. So that's very impressive. You dominate one of the teams that ended up going to Bangkok, so looks like you're already in the at least top 3 of your entire region. This might end up being the best version of Crew that we've ever had. Kesnet is looking pretty strong after a bit of a disappointing kickoff for him. Mazzino has been fantastic, and Shy has been a fantastic piece for that team. I might want a little more performance out of Melzer and Adverso, but those two players don't need to be getting all the kills. Right now, Adverso looks like a great pickup for their IGL. I think that's exactly what this team needed, an IGL that they can just stick with, instead of swapping IGL depending on what side they're on, or depending on what part of the year it is. Oh, Melzer is the IGL, now it's Klaus, now it's Kesnet for some reason. This team just needed to stick to one guy, and it's working out swimmingly for them, so I'm very excited to see how far this team can go. I'm really hoping that they make it to an international this year. Moving on, we have G2, and no change from where we put them last time. They are the first team in the Chad category. This doesn't really need an explanation. They are undefeated not only in stage 1, but in the Americas in 2025. They have not lost a single match in this region, and they've only lost 3 maps total by my count. This team still looks like they have quite a tier gap when it comes to some of the other teams in this region. I think the best chance to beat them was MIBR, and after losing a map to them, they end up winning that one. So there is a very decent chance that this team ends up going undefeated in this stage. It's not the most likely thing because going undefeated for that long, it is very hard to do. But if there's any team that can do it, would you be surprised that it's G2? This team just looks incredible right now. Moving on, we have C9, and after their 2 pretty strong wins, I think Hopium is the right place to put them. Of course, there's going to be the concern that as soon as we get to playoffs, this team ends up disappointing once again. But for now, I will try to focus on the negatives. I've been saying that playoff thing in videos a lot, so I'm trying to say it less, but it is hard to ignore when it comes to this team. But right now, they are looking quite strong. Very solid game against Leviathan, absolutely destroying them on that second map, and doing a great job at beating Energy in a 3-map game. So they're looking really strong in this stage. Don't have a ton of complaints about their play. They are playing against MIBR next. That's going to be a very tough match for them. After that, they have Furia, and then after that, they have G2. So they could walk away from this stage with like a 3-2 record. I can see that happening for them, which would put them pretty comfortably in playoffs. I don't see them beating MIBR or G2. At least I don't think they're the favorites for that match, but they can definitely beat Furia. We'll see if Oxy can once again get to a superstar power level that he was at during stage 1 last year. We haven't seen that from him yet, but he's starting to look better as the matches go along. He just needs to play with a bit more confidence, play a bit more loose, and I think this guy can just absolutely destroy everyone. Also, Zeppa is just on a revenge tour right now. I think he heard a lot of people in the offseason screaming for him to be dropped. He's looked incredible for this team, actually. Moving on, we have Energy, and despite winning their last match, I'm still going to put them in panic. So they did eventually win that game against Furia, but they scared everybody by losing that first map. So that was a very concerning sign, and then they ended up dominating those last 2 maps. So is this match a sign that things are going to turn around? They're finally starting to get their groove on maps? Or is this a sign that this team can't compete when it comes to the top dogs of the region and can only beat the lower tier teams? That is definitely a concern that I have about Energy right now. They are facing G2 next. I don't see them winning that one. Crazier things have happened, but after that they have MIBR, and then they have Leviathan to end the stage. So they can probably be Leviathan, but do we see them squeaking into a playoffs with a 3-2 record? I would not see that happening. I think most likely they're going to have like a 2-3 record, which means they're probably going to have to rely on a tiebreaker to make it into playoffs, which the more I talk about that, the more frustrating it is to think about if you're a fan of this team. Even just one loss can put your playoff hopes in jeopardy. That loss against C9, I guess they just always lose to C9 in 2025 and 2024 actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But that definitely was a devastating loss. So maybe they can recover, but it's a very tough road from them from here on out. Also, please don't do Ethan on Yoru. I just don't want to see it. I really hope Mata is just their only duelist and starts to heat up, because right now it's just Som and everyone else. Mata did a much better job in that Furia game than the C9 game, but I still want to see a bit more from him because I think he has a lot to give. Moving on, we have 100 Thieves, and I think right smack dab in the middle seems about right for them. They start the stage against Sentinels, they lose that one. That's a matchup they usually lose, and then they go on to face Evil Geniuses, a team that most would consider to be pretty bad, and then they won that one. There was a close map in there, but they still ended up winning it, so it doesn't really matter. 2-0 victory from them puts them back into a good position to make playoffs, and their next match is against Loud, a team that just got punked by arguably the worst team in the entire region. So maybe Loud come into that match really wanting to bounce back and play angry and get that win over 100 Thieves, or 100 Thieves ends up being able to shut down anything Loud can throw at them, and they start their own win streak. This team definitely has some talent on it. I don't know if I trust this team to be one of the top teams in the region right now. I think in the middle of the pack is just where they're going to end up for the season, but as soon as they start to heat up, this team could go on a run. Cryo and EU had great games last time. Cryo especially looked fantastic in CG. Asuna hasn't had the best stage 1 so far, so I hope he starts to heat up. If this team has any chance of winning, then I think he has to. But overall, not too much to complain, but not too much to praise either when it comes to 100 Thieves. Moving on, we have Evil Geniuses, and I think I'm gonna put them in panic. They are 1-1 in the stage so far, but their upcoming schedule looks quite tough. They get their first win in the stage over 2G, pretty easy matchup there. Then they face off against 100 Thieves, doesn't go their way. And now their upcoming schedule is Sentinels, Crew, and then Loud. Sentinels and Crew are going to be tough matches for that team, and then can you beat Loud at that point? Maybe Loud starts to look better by the time we get to that week that is the last game of the stage. So right now this team is looking similarly to Energy, a team that's kind of hoping for a 2-3 record and then a tiebreaker to make it into playoffs. I think that's the best we can hope for them right now. It just looks like too big of a hill to climb. Ye has looked decent overall, but Icy's definitely struggling right now. And the players that stayed from last year's roster haven't impressed me too much so far. Derek has looked good though. Right now my faith in this team is waning. Maybe they get some upsets here and there and play spoiler, but I'm not counting on it. And moving on to our last team of the video, we have Sentinels, who I think deserve to be in Copium. So they were one of the teams to make it to Bangkok after a up and down kickoff, but still ended up with them in the top 2. And then their kickoff performance was pretty abysmal, especially in that last map against Team Liquid. However, you're still the second best team in your region heading into stage 1, and you start your stage off against 100 Thieves, a game you always win. History repeats itself, they win that match, and then they face off against Crew. And Crew are a very good team, but I think most people would have said before that match that Sentinels were the favorite. And then Sentinels could not win a map. Crew looked a lot better than I think most were expecting, but Crew's a very tough team with some very talented players. But Sentinels also are a team that should be a tough out and has a lot of talent. I still want to see more consistency from Narrate. I think his emotions get to him a lot, and it just seems to affect his performance at the worst times. Bang has been quite good for them. He's actually the highest rated player on the team right now. Zekin is a fantastic player, but it still seems like he's struggling a bit. He's definitely fighting it. Crown QT has been okay so far in Stage 1, and Zelsis has struggled a lot, so they're gonna need some players that are kind of in slumps to get out of it. They only lost one match in the stage so far, it's not that big of a deal, that's why they're not lower, and their upcoming schedule looks very favorable for them. They have Evil Geniuses next, the next weekend they have Loud, and then they end their stage against 2G. 3 very winnable games, 3 games where you can get your mojo together and start looking like the team that on paper you are. So if they can dominate some of those teams and get their confidence up, I think that'd be huge for this team heading into playoffs. I don't think Sentinels fans should be worried about the missing playoffs like they did last year. I think this team is still in quite a good position, but even though these are favorable matchups, nothing comes easy in the VCT, so do not get complacent. I definitely still have confidence in this team, it's just a matter of how far they can take it. So these are my panic rankings for VCT Americas after the second week of Stage 1. Very interesting to see how the situations have changed for all these teams. I'll probably do one more of these before Stage 1 ends, at least the round robin. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of these rankings? Where would you put your favorite team or any other team? Let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.